Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more Legacy action. Today, at the request of a donor, we are playing something that is incredibly spicy. Hopefully, with the bans that have happened in this format, things are a little bit weaker, so we can maybe play something a bit spicier. So, what are we doing here? This is a Yorion Painter deck, and there's a whole lot of other bits and pieces going on in here. It's a real mishmash of stuff. I'm not going to go over everything because it's enormous, but basically we have Painter Servant Grindstone combo in our deck, which is obviously being fed by things like Urza's Saga. We've got my beloved Tezzeret Agent of Bolus. This is the card that I brewed around that got me onto the Pro Tour back in the day, so it's something that I have a lot of affinity and affection for. We've got ourselves a bunch of artifacts that we can play out, like Baubles, Lotus Petals, Lavaspur Boots, Nihil Spellbomb, Zuranorb even. Love Zuranorb. And these are hopefully going to try and power out things like our Kappa Cannoneer and our Emry. We've got some dig in the form of Stock Up. We've got Tamiyo. We've got Brainstorm. There's just a whole bunch of different things in here. We've even got Perilous Research, which we can use to sacrifice our Eumidian Hatchery, which is beautiful. My initial thoughts on this deck is it's probably trying to do a lot of things. Like, it feels like we're almost playing a loot deck because it's almost singletons. So I'm not sure if we're going to just keep drawing disparate pieces. There's lots of good cards in here, and there's lots of good little bits of synergy. So we're just going to fire it up and see how it goes. I have no idea how to assess this without playing it, other than maybe there's going to be a few too many ingredients in this broth, but we'll find out. Sideboard-wise is just a bunch of sideboard cards. We've got some extra removal, we've got some consigns, we've got some blasts, bit of graveyard hate, Shadow Spear, which we can put in, which we can find off of the Urza's Saga when we need to get a little bit of life gain in some matchups, generically useful Disruptor Flute. Just a bunch of stuff, really. Everything in here seems reasonable. I think the Rushing River is an interesting one. So this is a bounce spell where we can sacrifice a land to bounce two things. Bit of a weird one, but we'll see how all the pieces line up. But this is just a wonderful mishmash of stuff, and I'm excited to see if we can work it all together. We even have a one-of Hogaak, which is wild here. All right, I'm not even sure if we should call this Yorion Painter. This is like Yorion stuff, I suppose. I think it should be quite a fun one to see if all the pieces can come together, though. And, obviously, we still have the One Ring in here. Why not? Alright, please remember to like and subscribe, and let's get stuck into this glorious pile of things. If you've been watching my content and thinking, I'd like to play some Legacy too, then check out 3for1 Trading, one of Europe's leading Magic the Gathering retailers. They have weekly offers and upload new cards every Wednesday. And it's not just Legacy stuff they sell. They have a beautiful selection of vintage and old school cards too. Support from sponsors like 3for1 Trading make it possible for me to put out videos and help keep Legacy alive, so why not give them some love? Click their link in the description below and use my code COW3 to enjoy free worldwide shipping on your first order over €500. We're on the play. I don't know how to evaluate this hand. It doesn't technically do anything, but we can sit behind an Ensnaring Bridge for a while against some matchups. And we can hopefully draw into Painter at some point. This feels like a bit of a sketchy one to keep. But we have relatively good amount of mana here. Alright, I'm going to try this. We obviously have the Yorion, which is a game plan that we can reach for. So when we've got all this sort of like nonsense in our hand, we can just get the Yorion into hand and use that as a way of beating down or whatever. So we've got Lavaspur Boots. So putting this one into play first in case we draw something like an Emry, then we can give it haste straight away. A Volcanic Island, Mishra's Bauble. So this is either going to be 8-cast or Delver. / Corey Steel Cutter. Some of them have Delver, some of them don't. It's Delver. So they're going to use this Bauble on their turn to give an additional look at the Delver so they can stack the triggers how they want when they go to draw and when they go to reveal. And because they know what the card is, they're more likely to flip with Delver. A Brainstorm. Do we have enough fetches to really utilise this Brainstorm? I'm going to get a Pithing Needle in on Wasteland here. They might Bauble in response. They do indeed, and they are targeting themselves as we expected. I don't really want to get wastelanded here, so I'm just going to let this one deal with that problem for us. And then I'm happy to just cast this Grindstone, just get some cards out of our hand, building up for this Ensnaring Bridge. This might get a daze, and we don't mind that, because that means that our Ensnaring Bridge, which is actually what we want to land here, is more likely to stick. It will make things a little bit difficult for us in terms of how we're trying to... Alright, so flip this to the Brainstorm. So it might make things more difficult for us to attack and beat down if we don't have a bunch of cards in hand, because we're spewing our cards so we're not getting beaten down. But if we're not getting beaten down, I think we're in an okay spot. They will have a Petty Theft at some point that can knock out our Ensnaring Bridge. Another Bauble, so this gives them another look with the Delver of Secrets. Come on, deck, give us an Emry. A Painter's Servant. That's certainly an interesting one. Let's brainstorm first. See what shakes loose. Emry, that is very much the sort of thing that we're looking for right now. Spellbomb is interesting. We can certainly use that later. I think this turn is going to be an attempt at this Ensnaring Bridge. We've kind of paved the way by making them use a Daze earlier on our Grindstone. So if this sticks, we won't take any damage from Delvers. And then we can use the Emry to assemble everything. Alright, so they pitch the Brainstorm. They're going lower on resources. We've still got a decent amount of life, so we can hopefully just get the Emry, get back the Grindstone, and then start doing Painted Servant, Grindstone combo stuff. Chain Lightning. That is going to hurt us a little bit here. I assume they're just going to point this at us now. They do indeed. 6 life is not a lot, is it? 2 cards in our opponent's hand. I think this is going to be an Emry turn. So we can give it the boots, and then we can get our Ensnaring Bridge back into play. Alright. We are sat behind a bridge. Our Emry is a little bit harder for them to kill. If they do kill it, though, it's going to be hard for us to get the Grindstone combo off. Let's get this Grindstone. Cracking this does put us down to a low life total, which I'm not a big fan of. Here is our Painted Servant. A Force of Will. Okay. We do have the Emry, so we can just do this again. I don't really want to go to 3 life if I can avoid it. Lightning Bolts. I'm very glad we didn't go to 3 life there. So it's going to take a couple of turns to get this Painted Servant into a position where we can actually win the game. Alright. They have scooped it up. I think that's a little bit premature. They can still draw a burn spell because we don't get to do anything next turn. We can play the Painter, but we can't pop the Painter yet because we don't have the mana without hurting ourselves. Okay, so we won our first game with this weird and wonderful deck. I would like to have access to some removal spells. That seems like a good place to be. Other than that, Disruptive Fruitful Wasteland is not too shabby. If we look at our mana base, it's going to be a little bit sketchy getting Wastelanded. The Hydroblast and Blue Blast are pretty good for Dragon's Rage Channeler and Chorus Steelcutter. I think that makes a reasonable chunk of sense. And I would like the Shadow Spear because the life gain is going to be relatively useful too. So potentially the Disruptor Flutes also. What here doesn't look good? We're going to have to really look through because there's a whole bunch of things. I don't think we want these Thought Seizes. The Hogaak is big and hard to kill, so that might be quite useful. Rushing River is actually pretty good against Murktide Regent. You don't even hate the Zuran Orb here. I like Zuran Orb more than most human beings, so this is probably a trap for me to keep this in, but I like it. I don't think we want these Force of Negations. Force of Will is reasonable, but I think we just want more like 1-for-1 interaction, if possible. And this leaves us needing one more cut. Baleful Strix is excellent. Metallic Rebuke is fine. Tezzeret is just going to be able to find us these little bits and pieces. Is that good enough? Can we trim on the Tezzeret? It also untaps the One Ring, which is kind of cool. I think Tezzeret is probably the cut here, though. And we are an 81 card deck because why not? We are a glorious mishmash of stuff. So let's just lean into it, I suppose. Like I said at the start, this isn't my list. It's one that a donor sent in they found online, and I don't really know how to approach it, so here we are. Alright, we have the best blue card in the format. And we can also sort of roll into stock up with this. Delver of Secrets. 1, 2, 3. So we can get Metalcraft. Not that that necessarily helps us too much right now. Okay, maybe Metalcraft does help us out. Get the Petal and the Mox. And I'll use this to cast a Tamiyo. And we can hold up this Brainstorm. I could Brainstorm right now and just have a Turmoil Planeswalker and try and ride that to victory. That sounds pretty good. But I think I'm going to save this because if we flip this and they just Pyroblast it, then we're not going to feel great. If they waste a removal spell on this and we just Brainstorm a response, that's going to be pretty good. What are we doing here? Not flipping, so we get to block here. A Brainstorm from our opponent, that's fine. The clues we make off Tamiyo can help us use this Metallic Rebuke. I don't actually hate our position here. Melt down, you say. My thoughts on the position we're in have certainly changed. If we flip the Tamiyo, it doesn't die to the Delver. I think we're going to do this. Okay. Not really feeling the selection of cards we have access to. Things have gone a little bit bad for us, suffice it to say. Doesn't really matter where we put these cards because we don't get to use any of them. So they're going to attack Tamiyo down to 1. And then we're going to lose 3 permanents. That is a bit disappointing. It's Tamiyo versus the world. I guess we'll play our Ancient Tomb. Although we don't necessarily need to play it right now, but if our opponent wastelands us, maybe they're not cantripping as much and playing a big Murktide. I think we probably lose this one. I was feeling real good, and then Meltdown happened. Right, they're not revealing, so the Delver gets checked by the Tamiyo again. So we get to actually put some more loyalty on this Tamiyo. Have they got a Red Blast? A Kori Steelcutter. Have they got a thing to go with Kori Steelcutter? They do indeed. So this is going to give them a effective 1/1 attacker into our Tamiyo. Do they have another spell? They have a Wasteland. That's obviously pretty bad for us. So they attack us, our Tamiyo, for 1 here. But then it's going to go up for 2. We're going to be able to amass amass loyalty on our Planeswalker. But this is buying us quite a lot of time. If, let's say, we didn't have a Tamiyo, then maybe we get to Ancient Tomb and draw clues, but then we're taking damage the entire time. This is impacting the amount of damage that we're taking in a big way. I think we are just dead here. Right, they're transformed, revealing a Lightning Bolt. Tamiyo probably not going to live for much longer. We do have another one, but we have no way of casting it. That is a Dragon's Race Channeler. They're probably going to bolt us, which gives them another... Okay, they're just pondering. They can find a land here and also get the bolt off if they want to, or they can save the bolt for next turn and use that as a way of casting 2 spells in a turn. They have enough to kill the Tamiyo now. That Meltdown, that was fierce. Everything at Tamiyo. Tamiyo will take 4. A Swamp. Okay, there's a possibility that maybe Orcish Bowmasters can get us through this one. We're still at 20 life because of that Tamiyo play. We soaked up so much damage. Although now we are taking a fair bit to the face. I'm surprised they didn't cast 2 spells before attacking us. Suggests to me that the spells they have in hand are reactive. Now, they can obviously just be proactive with the Lightning Bolt if they want. Seat of the Synod. What is the play here? It's probably Orcish Bowmasters and hope that they maybe draw a card. Price of Progress. It's pretty good. We're going to take 2 damage. They're going to take 4, but they get Surveil. It's a good card to have it against us for sure. This situation was just like a shock and stuff. Okay, now we have a chance. If they don't have a counterspell, but now we know they have a Lightning Bolt is the problem. Right, they have a Daze. Alright, we're dead here. Let's just go to game 3. I like how we sideboarded. I don't think we want the forces, the other forces in. We can keep the ones we have. Sorry, we can put these ones back in if we want to. Maybe over like Rushing River, although I do like this against Murktide Regent quite a lot. Maybe we get rid of these 2, just have a couple of forces. I think this Hogaak might be a little bit of a sketchy one. We'll just have a handful of forces in. We don't really want that many forces. We just want to be playing 1 for 1. But sometimes if we're in a horrible situation, maybe a Force of Will be useful for us. Perilous Research. We can sacrifice the Aether Saga with the trigger on the stack for the final chapter. That's another useful little quirk with the research here. I think we just lead off with a Spellbomb and permanently delete a token from the Kori Steelcutter as well as resetting a Murktide. Just a Flooded Strand. Fatal Push. We will play out our Urza's Saga. I would very much like to draw a land. Ideally a blue one, but any land works for our purposes here because we can just get the Aether Saga running and that's going to be... I was going to say it's going to be pretty effective. I guess not. I think I'm going to draw a card with our Spellbomb to try and dig to a land. We did find the land. We have Revolt on our Fatal Push this turn. We don't need it, sure. A Brainstorm. I'm going to play this Baleful Strix. This card is very good into what our opponent's doing. Flooded Strand. Would I Force of Will this? I don't think so. It's not really what this is about. Bind off the Chain Lightning and now they're dazing this. Sure. We have a force that we can point at something spooky. We have a Fatal Push that can deal with the little creatures. We don't want to see... I was about to say we don't want to see a Wasteland. And there's immediately one right there in our face. Blue Blast. Not ideal. That little guy. Sure. I will Fatal Push this in the end step. a Daze. I don't think we fight over this. If we find a blue source, we can just blue blast it. We're just making it easier for our spells to resolve, I guess. Trading 1 for 1, which isn't necessarily a bad thing for us. We get to find a basic island. Goodbye, Dragon's Rage Channeler. Now we have Force of Will around Daze. At some point we can start brainstorming into some more action. Maybe we'll find the Eumidian Hatchery and really get to pop off with this Perilous Research. There's that Thundering Falls that they bounced earlier on in the game. They're milling over Lightning Bolts. Okay, I would like to Brainstorm, please. Ancient Tomb, Minamo. I guess we are putting the Minamo into play this. No. Yeah, put the Minamo into play because then this allows us to get the Tezzeret in the following turn. So what do we not really need here? This is probably our pitch for this. I mean, let's put the Brainstorm and the Tomb on top. And I will play out this Minamo. We could Perilous Research if they try to Wasteland us. Is that better than getting a Lavaspur Boots in? Probably. Okay. That would mean we'd have to Tezzeret as our pitch for Force of Will. No, they didn't Wasteland us. It's just a Ponder. Just a little Delver of Secrets. Am I bothered by that? They know this is going to flip next turn. There's a Bauble. Because they left their Ponder on top, so I have to imagine that this is working. So they're going to see the top card of our library. Here is Tezzeret. I will fight over this one, I believe. We can pay for days. Alright, we're in. If we plus this one, they can't kill it with just a Delver, and we also get some card advantage. I think we're going to take one of these many Seats of the Synods. Do I want to play this Lavaspur Boots out into days? It does mean this can attack next turn if we do. Do I care if they daze a Lavaspur Boots? Not especially. I think it's fine to do this. Because if they daze this, it's going to be harder for them to get a Corey Steelcut going. Which is the one thing I'm kind of worried about right now. This Delver should flip. They stack their Ponder. So they can hit our Tezzeret down. Okay, so this is not a Corey Steelcut a turn. So they're going to need to spend another spell on this. And this has already gotten us a card. Now, it may have only gotten us a land. But it's gotten us a card. So this will be a trade up if they spend a resource on this. They could have something like Red Elemental Blast / Pyroblast, which can just deal with this relatively cleanly. But again, we're still slightly up on that trade, which is all we want to be doing. We just want to be slightly up on the trade at all times and slowly grind our opponent down with our sort of, I want to say superior late game. We've got things like Stock Up and the One Ring and Barrowgoyf, which should be superior to what our opponent's doing. Obviously, Murktide is a pretty spooky card. So they might be putting a burn spell at this Tezzeret. So it's soaked up 3 damage for us. Are they burning it? They are burning it. Alright, it was a bit of an expensive cantrip, but it saved us some life and cost us cards. Cost our opponent some cards. Force of Will. I guess we'll play out this Seat. We do have Brainstorm in our deck. Our opponent can Wasteland us off of this Force of Will. But they might not do that. They might want to take out Minamo because it can do some great stuff with like the One Ring or whatever. The more lands we have in play, the more opportunity our opponent has to hit the wrong one with a Wasteland, if that's what they draw. We don't want to see, like, Wasteland into Murktide. I can take 3 here. That's fine. Mishra's Bauble. That is not worth me Force of Willing. They get to see what we draw before we draw it. I'm not playing anything out. Okay. This is kind of why I'm not super in love with Force of Will in this sort of matchup. Alright, we have an Urza Saga. That is a game plan. If they don't have the Wasteland, then we can get the Shadow Spear off of this and have a really good time. Let's not get meltdowned once we make all these guys. We have the Force of Will. They can't Wasteland us off of it now. We're going to go to 10 here. Our opponent's got 4 cards in hand. We don't really want to see a Murktide Regent. We've already burnt our Aether Spellbomb, which is our cleanest answer to it. Now we can Force of Will, but they might be able to protect it with their own force. An island. That's probably not what our opponent wanted to see. I'm certainly happy to see that instead of a Wasteland. Because now we have a pretty good plan. We should have put the Yorion into our hand last turn. That was a... No, actually, no, we don't want to put the Yorion into hand. We're going to hold out the Force of Will. We've seen Price of Progress. I think we just hold off here. Although the Price of Progress probably kills us. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. We're just very dead to that anyway. Are we supposed to play around it in that case? I guess we're not. Because we don't beat it. So we just can't play around it. We can make a little Urza Saga token here. This is probably our opponent's best opportunity to price of progress if that's what they have. If they want to lightning bolt this, they kind of need to do it now. I'm going to go and get this Shadow Spear. I'd like to equip this guy. Tamio is our blue card for Force of Will. Unholy Heat. You can pay the ward. They've got 2 cards in hand. I think if we counterspell this, we probably are odds on to win the game. I'm going to go for it here. We can pay around days. If they got Price of Progress, then that absolutely ruins us. But I think we just get this attack in. I think they would have fired off the Price of Progress earlier if they had anyway. So we get to attack for loads. And if this construct connects, that's 7 life. That's a huge swing. Okay, I think we are odds on to win this one now. Some sort of Corey Steelcutter Murktide Regent line is like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That doesn't kill us. This is going to be the price. 2, 4... No, it's Meltdown. Ah, yes. My old friend Meltdown. That's a problem. It's interesting to see the Meltdowns in our opponent's deck, because Meltdown is not very good against the best artifact deck in the format, which is the Mystic Forge key deck. That deck tends to just play like a bunch of 4-drop artifacts that you can't really answer that cleanly. Now, obviously, Meltdown is better than nothing, and they probably have Null Rods alongside it, maybe. I can't imagine they're playing multiple copies of Meltdown. It's probably just a singleton, but they've seen half their deck, so it's not out of the realms of possibilities to find it. Right, we're dead on board. We put up a good fight. We can Emry, but we can't get haste. We are, unfortunately, deceased. But we put up a real fight. Our deck didn't look like a joke deck. So that's something. Our opponent had to have their big sideboard card to win the game twice. So I'll take that. Let's go to round 2. Okay, this is fine. We've got some Brainstorm action. We've got a little safety valve if our opponent's trying to play the One Ring on turn 1. We can play on basics to get around some other bits and pieces like Magus of the Moon. We've got Tezzeret as a turn 3 play. This seems all perfectly reasonable. I think we lead off on this Polluted Delta in case we need to get a basic in the face of a Magus of the Moon. Because obviously our Force of Negation won't hit that. It's an island. A Bauble. What flavour of island deck is this? Is this 8 cast? I suspect it probably is. We have a Surveil land. This sort of deck is unlikely to mess with my mana, so I'm going to go and get a Surveil land now. It does mean that our Brainstorm doesn't have a shuffle effect to go with it just yet. I think getting in this Surveil is pretty good. Okay, that is probably the best card in our deck. Tezzeret can give us life gain to offset the One Ring as well. Tezzeret's ultimate is a bit of a banger. It's only -4, and they lose X life, where X is double the number of artifacts I have, and we gain that much. Let me just roll out the old Seats of the Synod and pass it over. We can play around some stuff. We can try and Brainstorm into more permission if we feel the need. The other option there is to play the Ancient Tomb and get the Yorion into hand, but I don't like that much. Aether Spellbomb, sure, that's not our fight here. So this Force of Negation doesn't work very well on our own turn, obviously. So I think we're going to feed the Tezzeret to our opponent so that we can resolve the One Ring. Which is sad, because I like this card a whole lot more than I like the One Ring, but this card is just better. And we should preserve the thing that's going to win us the game. Sink into Stupor. Does that change anything here? I don't believe it does. Send in this clown. Are you ready for Tezzeret? This is going to be a Metallic Rebuke. This was our bait spell to try and get permission out of our opponent's hand so that we can resolve the One Ring on our next turn. If they have another Metallic Rebuke, then we have to worry about that. The way they didn't crack their Bauble does suggest to me that they have a Kappa Cannoneer they're going for. Or an Emry. Emry's pretty good too. A little bit worried about the Emry, actually. Bauble, they have a Cannoneer, so that can come back next turn. Alright, they're going to see a random card in our hand. They see the One Ring. That's a pretty good card. Is the One Ring good enough here? They're holding open a very obvious Metallic Rebuke here. Azuran Orb. Okay, I think this is a Brainstorm turn. Try and shake something loose here. An Orcish Bowmasters, you say? Don't mind if I do. I'm sorry, Azuran Orb. I don't think this is your time to shine just yet. And we're not casting the One Ring this turn, so we may as well put it on top. Like, we could play the One Ring with Force backup. Is that good enough? Or do we need to do more? It's very rarely wrong to play the One Ring with Force backup. I do like Orcish Bowmasters to clean this Emry off the board, and that gives us more stuff to stick next turn. Alright, we're going to play it slightly slower. And we're going to deploy this Otawara to save ourselves a little bit of life. And the plan is, when our opponent tries to draw some extra cards, we can like Bowmaster and all sorts. They got Thoughtcast and things in their deck that we can prey upon. And if we play the Bowmaster on our opponent's turn, it means that the Force of Negation is also live. So we have double force for this turn. That is a Lotus Petal. And there's another Lotus Petal. Looks like Kappa Cannoneer is coming our way. Not ecstatic about that for us. Thoughtcast. This is what we've been waiting for. Here comes the Bowmaster. They've only got one card in hand. Let's put a point on this Emry. This would force them to burn the Aether Spellbomb here, bouncing our Orcish Bowmasters. They're targeting the Kappa Cannoneer. Okay. Are you still going to bounce? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're not going to bounce, so we're going to get to clean up their guy. I'm not sure I like that. So we've gotten rid of the engine. We've got a bunch of counter magic in hand, so we can just say no to the Kappa Cannoneer if they even find the land or the artifact for it. There's the artifact for it. I think it's better to counter the Kappa Cannoneer than it is to try and counter the artifact. Especially since the Aether Spellbomb wasn't particularly useful in play. Let's bin off this Sink into Stupor, please. If they force back, then we clean the stack with this Force of Negation. So we are a million miles ahead. They might even scoop to the One Ring, to be honest. Get me my Zuran Orb. Emry's good. I won't lie, Emry is pretty good. It's not as good as the One Ring, though. So we're just hoping that our really busted artifact is just going to win the day here. Which is a relatively safe bet. So they have got a Grindstone in their graveyard, which is important to note. So they are on a Painter build. Probably means they're not on Pinnacle Emissary. It's very hard to fit all of that in the same deck. Right, the One Ring hurts us a little bit, but not that much. Okay, they're Baubling, so we will get another ping off of our Bowmaster. That'll be in our opponent's turn. Let's tap the One Ring. Stock up and Brainstorm, you say. Probably should have played that after the Kappa Cannoneer, thinking about it. Let's send in the Orc Army. You're going to Aether Spellbomb my Orc Army token. You got it. Let's cast this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Could have played this in a way we got an extra counter on it with the Seat of the Synod. Honestly, I'm just going to put a point of damage on the Emry. It's unlikely to make any difference here, but it does mean if they cast any sort of draw effect, they will lose the Emry. Now, most of the draw effects are going to be ones that draw them 2 cards, but they can cycle a Spellbomb or something, and I would rather just have access to killing this guy. That is a Painter's Servant. That is pretty good. They've got 3 cards in hand. They can get back a Grindstone and we can Force of Negation it. Which will take it away forever, but I believe they have 2 Grindstones. So we're a little bit under the gun here. Now I'm certain that we have the ability to get through what our opponent's doing. The One Ring is a pretty messed up Magic the Gathering card. I say no to this, and we also have Stock Up, which should hopefully be able to find something else. Right, they have a Force here. 1 card in hand. Is the last card in their hand a land? They threaded the needle here. I think they have. So now they Grindstone us. We don't have anything that flips our deck, do we? Just have a quick check before we expose our whole deck to our opponents. Nothing here is going to come back. Yeah, that's going to kill us. That is a little bit sad. Okay. What do we want here? I would like some removal spells for their annoying things. Consigned to Memory is pretty good against their deck as well. Disruptor Flute's pretty good. I don't think we need the Shadow Spear, although it does help us win an Urza Saga race if that happens. So it's a consideration. I think removal is a better way to deal with their guy as opposed to these Frame cards. We still have the Spellbomb that we can reach for. They are a combo deck, so I don't hate having the Thought Seizers here. We have our own Emrys. Rushing River's probably not great. We kind of knew that going in, to be honest. Barrowgoyf is fine for the most part. I don't think this is an Ensnaring Bridge matchup. Now, obviously, they can have their own Kappa Cannoneers, and they're probably better at playing Kappa Cannoneer than we are. So maybe we do want the bridge, and we're the one who has to ease off the Kappa. We can Grindstone them out using their own thing, and they don't know that's a lever we can pull yet. How do I feel about Hogaak? It's just a guy, isn't it? Maybe we are taking out like the Kappa, leaving in the bridge. Now, what are we supposed to board out? It's probably not the Zuranor being the one today, is it? Pith Needle is good, although it can tread on our own toes a little bit. Perilous Research, maybe that's what has to go here. It's not the most exciting, is it? We still got to find 3 more cuts. This is wild. Singer Stupa is one of our lands, so that stays. Tezzeret finds us the Nihil Spellbomb and the Pith Needle up here, so that's really important. I think that we want to keep this Tezzeret around. Force of Negation is card disadvantage. Are we better off just keeping the Forces of Will, but not the Force of Negation? Probably we're boarding in 1-for-1 counter magic here. Baleful Strix, maybe not at its best, but it can trade with the construct relatively well. Maybe take out a Painter. Taking out Painters in the Painter mirror is like a classic thing to do. But we are a Yorion deck, so finding them is a lot less likely. This hand doesn't play, so we have to send it back. This hand is fine. I'm not going to turn away a Brainstorm. We don't have any black mana yet. We don't really have anything to enable the Kaito, so I think the Kaito is the thing that's going to go here. Because this could just sit and rot away in our hand, whereas the other stuff is something that we might be able to get out of our hand. I do believe that we're going to find black mana off of a Brainstorm or whatever. We can emergency Brainstorm if we need to, but I doubt that's the thing we're going to be doing here. We can just hold on Metallic Rebuke from turn 2 onwards. Are they going to spam a bunch of things this turn? That's kind of what the deck does. Aether Spellbomb. Not too bothered by that one. So now we get to hold up our Metallic Rebuke, and then we can worry about playing some other things. We might Brainstorm our opponent's end step, so that we can continue to hold this Metallic Rebuke, but try and make a land drop. I think that's quite an important thing to do here. We do risk getting Brainstorm locked. They really not draw anything there. Okay, let's just Brainstorm with their end step. We found the land we wanted. So we can go land Tamiyo and then hold up. Do we want the Ensnaring Bridge? It doesn't feel like we're doing Ensnaring Bridge stuff right now. Probably don't need double Force. Although we have Force plus Rebuke if we do it this way. So maybe just put back the Bit of Triumph. We're going to be drawing one of these cards anyway, so maybe just draw the Bit of Triumph for later. I can live with this. Let's play a Tamiyo. This is going to mask some clues. We have Force of Will plus Metallic Rebuke to protect the Tamiyo. And we've got this Bit of Triumph. And if our opponent plays like a giant creature this turn, we can just leave the Ensnaring Bridge on top, although we probably would rather just counter whatever they play instead. They've got a lot of cards in hand, and they weren't... Okay, they've got an Emry here. How do I feel about Emry? We can just clean this up with a Bit of Triumph. I think that's fine. Bunch of zeros. I kind of want this Ensnaring Bridge so we don't get beaten down by Urza Saga tokens. I'm going to take the Ensnaring Bridge. Not the most mana efficient turn we've ever had. I think that's okay. This probably wants to go and get us an Underground Sea. And I'll pay 3 life to kill this. We're shields down on the Metallic Rebuke. If they force back here, we can pop the clue and have more information about what we want to pitch to this force. Let's draw a card. A Painter's Servant. Not a great one here. I'm going to try and nail this with Force Pitching Force. Get out of here, Emry. Alright, they don't have an engine. We do. Now, Urza Saga is an engine, but we have a nice answer to this. If they set into Saga Gaming, we can just say, here's the bridge, what are you going to do about it? And if they're making constructs, they're not bouncing our Tamiyo, so we're accruing advantage. These constructs are going to be somewhat substantial. I would like to draw another land here. That way we can play the Ensnaring Bridge and still hold up the Metallic Rebuke. For our opponent's turn, at least. Actually, if we attack here and get a clue, play a land, we can do both in our turn. We didn't manage to do that. Let's attack with our Tamiyo. We could try to have our cake and eat it here. Like stock upping into a land. Are we just bouncing? Okay, they're making a construct here. Our creature flies. But they're tapping out, so no Metallic Rebuke to worry about. 3 cards in hand. I think we're just going to stick the bridge. Is that cowardly? I could stock up. And I have to find an Ancient Tomb. No, I think it's correct just to stick the bridge. Okay, so we're relatively safe. We have the ability to Metallic Rebuke in our opponent's turn. Because we have 2 artifacts to improvise with. And we've kind of turned off their ability to really pressure us with the Ensnaring Bridge. Like, this is just going to keep us so safe. Alright, they're not making constructs because we've shut down that avenue for them, so they just want mana. So they're going to make some sort of play that hopefully we can Metallic Rebuke. That is a Grindstone. So this painter in our hand is terrible. A Thoughtcast. I don't think we fight over the Thoughtcast. We could just make them pay more for it and that doesn't feel great. They're probably going to want to use this floating mana. So going to play a spell, I would imagine. Another Grindstone. You got it. An Emry. We can't allow this one. Ensnaring Bridge still works when it's tapped. It's not like some of the other artifacts out there, like Trinissa and stuff. Okay. So we can't pay 3 to prevent this. So they're going to get this guy. They don't have a painter in their graveyard yet, but this could mill one. It did not. It did find them some stuff, but they already had like the Howling Mine off of the Bauble in there. It's going to have to be a big turn for stock up. Ooh, Emry's pretty good too. Let's go for stock up first because this card is going to dig us deeply. Not the best selection of things here. We could take this Force of Will. We could take the Spellbomb and the Force. But we don't have the mana to play this and bounce this guy this turn. So they're going to get something back here. I think that means... Are we just going to do our own Emry things? Maybe that's the way forward. So we could go like Boots and Emry. We can't play... No, we already have an Emry, so we don't need to get another Emry. Boots and Emry doesn't really work too well for us though, does it? Maybe this is Spellbomb plus Force. And then we can deploy the Aether Spellbomb, attack with the Tamiyo, get our free clue, and hope this Force of Will holds for a turn. Our opponent doesn't have much going on. We need them to not have a painter. If we play our painter, then our opponent just kills us. So this is a very dead card in hand. But we've got a multi-turn line where we bounce the Emry, and then we can stick our own Emry, and then we can keep their Emry out of play forever, as well as just having Force of Will to do the work. But if we have to use a Force of Will this turn, that's not a line available to us anymore. It's going to be a tricky one. Our opponent's deck is a lot more focused than ours, because ours has got lots of glorious nonsense in it, whereas theirs is just pretty clean and lean. Okay, and there's a Saga that can find them a whole bunch of scary things when it pops. We don't really have a way of stopping it from popping, because we're not that kind of deck. Alright, a Bauble. That is fine. They could start grindstoning themselves to see if they can find a painter. Alright, they've seen our Emry. Are they going to grindstone themselves before activating? I guess they don't have the mana, so it doesn't really matter now. They could just hold up Spellbomb plus Grindstone activation and just get a Bauble in now, or a Mox Opal. They're more inclined to get the Bauble rather than anything else here. They're grindstoning us. That is very strange. We showed them we had an Emry in hand. That is an interesting one. They're getting the Mox Opal back, sure. Trying to naturally grindstone a Yorion deck is not easy. We're not going to counter the Mox Opal. This Force of Will has got bigger fish to fry. Possibly the Emry. That is a fish that I would like to fry. Attack with the Tamiyo. We're going to Spellbomb it. Goodbye, Tamiyo. Going to bounce their Emry here. And then we have a choice. Would I rather keep a Tamiyo around or have this Emry? I think the Emry is better for us. So I'm going to play the Emry and pitch the Tamiyo. I suppose we can crack a clue as well. But I don't want to crack that clue just yet. The One Ring. That's a pretty good one. Because when we get extra cards in hand, it means that the Ensnaring Bridge isn't holding as well. Well, the guy's quite big, so it's going to take a while for this guy to attack anyway. So what are we looking to get back? We can get back the Disruptor Flute and shut off as a Saga. We can shut off Grindstone. But we are trying to win with our own Grindstones at some point. Painter's Servant. We have to counterspell this or we lose the game. We have the ability to keep bouncing this Emry out of play. That's kind of just a holding pattern though. Alright, they milled some more cards. I will draw off of this clue, I believe. 2 life is not nothing when our life total is this low, but I don't think this game is going to be about life totals. Do I want this? We could use this on our turn in conjunction with something like a Tamiyo, so I'm going to save this. A Fatal Push. So we can crack this clue and kill this Tamiyo. So, sorry, kill this Emry. Let's do that. Let's play this Underground Sea. Activate this and get our... Is it our Aether Spellbomb or is it the Disruptor Flute? It's probably the Disruptor Flute for now. That does make things a little bit tricky for us moving forward, though. If they play a Painter here, how much trouble are we in? I'm just going to get this Aether Spellbomb, I think. They don't have the mana to play Painter and pop the Grindstone in one turn. Not through our Spellbomb. They'd have to have enough mana to pop both of these Grindstones. So maybe next turn we get the Disruptive Flute back. I kind of just want to keep drawing cards. I could draw a card right now, in fact. But I think we have to hold this up for Painter's Servant. If they go and get a Pithing Needle here, that can cause us some issues. We can try and brainstorm into some counter magic. They just got a Bauble. There's so many different things that we have to think about and play around here, it becomes quite taxing. Red mana, is this Pinnacle Emissary? That guy's interesting. So they're just hard casting this guy. Emry, Lurker of the Loch. You can mill yourself a bunch. We're going to bounce this Emry. Just be mana efficient with our plays. Alright. I think I'm going to brainstorm at end step here. Let's get a bit more velocity going. How much mana do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can do this. They've got 2 cards in hand. Surprise, opponent. Alright, we tied it up. Okay, we managed to get there in the end. I'm pretty glad we didn't play the Disruptive Flute on Grindstone there. Oh, I like how we sideboarded. I think we're just going to go in again. Right. We've got 2 different engine cards and a spell that can break apart their engine. Pretty happy with where we are. This also makes our Emry cheaper down the stretch. Pinnacle Emissary. I don't really want to mess around with that one. Let's just say no to Pinnacle Emissary. We don't need them putting in like 4 power on turn 1. Now, Tamiyo can sometimes check that. But if this was what their hand was doing, then that's fine. If they've got an Emry now, then that is... Ugh, that is disgusting. Alright, we might be finished quicker than I thought here. Yikes. They do have the Bauble to go with the Emry, so we're going to be getting stuck with a whole bunch of things. Yeah, our opponent's just going to have more resources than us. Are we supposed to just let them have, like, 4 guys there? I don't think so. Okay, we've got Tamiyo into stock up. That's a lot of looks at an answer for this Emry. It's a case of how much time and resources can they get in the meantime. Pinnacle Emissary, are they going to get 1 or 2 guys from it? At least Tamiyo can kind of solve that problem. Maybe because we have the Tamiyo, we're supposed to not hit the Emry. No, sorry, not hit the Pinnacle Emissary, not the Emry. But if we don't hit the Pinnacle Emissary and our opponent puts 4 power into play, I'm not sure we're reliably beating that. We've got 4 Brainstorms in our deck, and we're a Yorion deck. So it's going to take a lot to dig through to those. I wonder if they're going to bounce our Tamiyo. It does actually take resources away from them. They can muster them as the game goes on, of course, because they can just keep accruing things with this Emry. But for now, it's okay. They're just letting us get our clue. And it's time to stock up. Eumidian Hatchery. I don't think Barrowgoyf works against the looping Aether Spellbomb here. I do like the Kaito, though. I'll certainly take the Kaito. I don't think we want to be doing hatchery stuff. Do we need another artifact? Not really. We definitely don't really want to be taking lands. I guess we are just taking the Barrowgoyf. Maybe we can tax our opponent's resources a bit much for them to handle. But the plan is next turn we get a Kaito in. Maybe we lock down the Emry. That's kind of an answer to it. Once the Emry's locked down, then we don't have to worry about the Aether Spellbomb, so the Barrowgoyf can come out and play, can recover all the life we've lost, and just be a big unit. These can only block creatures with flying, so the Barrowgoyf can swing through them. Another Emry. This is just going to mill them for 4, looking for gas. This is basically just a mill 4 for 1 mana. They found a Bauble, so nothing of note. That's good. Our opponent is Hellbent. They just have whatever this Emry gets them, which is probably just another redraw. I don't think there's anything... I guess they can get a Pinnacle Emissary back. That's pretty good. They're just going for the Bauble, though. Not getting the bits in with the drones. That's interesting. Don't know why you don't attack there. Unless they're really worried about Kaito, but they haven't seen Kaito yet that I'm aware of. Brainstorming is kind of interesting here, but I think we need to deal with this Emry. Let's see what our opponent does about this Tamiyo. We should have played out our Swamp first. They should block here, it's free. I should have played the swamp in case our opponent doesn't block, because that would be a mistake. It's just free for them to block. So they should take the block. Okay, we could have got our Kaito at a discounted rate. Not that we can do anything with the extra 1 mana, but still. If we minus this, then their little guys can kill our guy. That doesn't strike me as the best place for us to be. I think we're just going to... We could surveil. I think we're just going to get an emblem just to make our creature harder to deal with in combat. And then next turn we can Brainstorm, flip the Tamiyo, and then just start doing really good Kaito stuff. So we need to kind of fade this turn of our opponents. Ooh, they drew a land. That's not where you want it to be. Ooh, they drew a draw 2 though. That is where they want to be. Can I chain that into more draw effects or some spooky stuff that's going to wreck our day? Possibly. They've got another draw off of a slow trip with this Bauble. I think this game is really finely poised. Looks like maybe a Pinnacle Emissary from the graveyard here. Okay, so they're floating off the Mox, and then they're going to play this Mox. Are we getting Kappa Cannoneered? That's a bit horrible for us. And they still have this Aether Spellbomb, so we can't just deploy the Barrowgoyf and hope for the best. Just a Pinnacle Emissary. I can live with that one. Going to make another drone. We get to shut down all of these drones. Now, they do have this Aether Spellbomb, which can mess us up a little bit. What are they going to see here? If they see the Brainstorm, that's not good for us. I don't see what they saw off of that. A Grindstone. Does that change anything here? I don't believe so. This doesn't fly. We can go to attacks with the Kaito and the Tamiyo. They bounce the Tamiyo. That's really good news for us. They're not bouncing the Tamiyo. Need to get this Brainstorm off and suppress these drones. Our opponent's playing around that relatively well. Yep, they're blocking the Tamiyo with 3 guys. This is going to kill this. Let's see if we can force the Spellbomb off of our opponent. We've still got a bunch of clues kicking around. Oh wow, they're just letting us have it. We get to surveil these away in a second as well. So I guess we're just going to put the 2 lands away. Wow, we're just getting to do all these things. That feels pretty good. Plus on the Tamiyo, that's big news. We're going to stun this Emry. Do we want to stun the Emry or do we want to surveil? I think we have to stun the Emry. We'll play out this land. We can get a Lavaspur Boots in. And then just draw a clue. That seems fine. So you can play the Lavaspur Boots and the Tamiyo. We're in a very strong position. We can start cracking through these clues. We don't care about the drones. Do they have enough mana for Painted Servant? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have enough to kill us with Painted Grindstone combo. That is what I'm most worried about. Thoughtcast. That can still give them Painted Grindstone combo this turn. There's the Grindstone. Don't do it to me, opponent. They could put us in check with a Painted Servant. Okay, so here is another one of these. So they're keeping the one that's in play. I don't know if I like that, because this one can tap next turn. This one can't tap for 2 turns. So I think they should have kept this one. I don't think it matters, but I think that's what they should have done. So we can play a Barrowgoyf and put the Lavaspur Boots on it, and our opponent kind of has to react to that. We do have to draw through these lands on top of our deck. There's no point attacking with these. Our opponent is also behind on clock, so we have that going for us too. It's been a pretty good game of Magic the Gathering, this one. If we can burn our opponent's Lotus Petal here, it's not the least helpful thing. We know we're not drawing a blue card because we're just drawing a land. Let's go for Barrowgoyf. Let's try and equip the Barrowgoyf. And then we're going to have the Kaito hopefully find us a blue card. And then maybe we can draw into one off of our clue. Or we can find a blue card off of this Barrowgoyf because they can't block it right now. They can bounce the Barrowgoyf. It costs them an Ancient Tomb activation and the Lotus Petal. Right, they're just going to let us connect. Hasty Barrowgoyf seems good, as it turns out. Okay, we didn't get what we wanted there. What am I most worried about? I guess we surveil first. If we find the blue card or the Force of Will, we can do some various things here. Orcish Bowmasters. I think that's what I'm about right now. We drew the Tamiyo. This means that we can minus this to get back this Force of Will. Which gives us a little bit of security. we could deploy this Grindstone so we're ready to try and rock with that. I'm going to play out this Ancient Tomb so we can crack a clue. Do I want this Grindstone in play or not? They're going to attack everything at Kaito or Tamiyo. They can't kill both. If we play the Tamiyo, they can't kill the Kaito and they just go after this Tamiyo. But then we lose the Tamiyo we already have and we lose our Force of Will. That doesn't seem good to me. Do we just play the Grindstone out here and have a clue to crack? I think that's fine. So we might lose the Kaito this turn. Maybe we didn't need to attack with the Tamiyo there. I know there's a lot of stuff going on and we're getting pretty tight on clock. We don't want to lose to Painted Servant here. We're going to draw a bunch of extra cards. They're targeting the Barrowgoyf and they're going to pay. That's fine. The Emry's going to be unfrozen next turn, but we can make a hasty Barrowgoyf next turn. And that's going to come in for 8 damage, which is a pretty reasonable amount. We don't have the blue to untap this, which is why we didn't leave this going. So these probably all come in at Kaito. Oh, they didn't attack. What is happening? Right, I would like to draw an extra card. We've got loads of life now, thanks to your friend of mine, Barrowgoyf. Consign to Memory. That's obviously a pretty good one. I think I'm going to play this Ancient Tomb out, just so we have more mana to pay for any potential... whatever that... the blue spell that is going to mess us up. Whose name I can't remember. The one we have to pay 3. What's it called? Metallic Rebuke. That's the one I've been trying to think of, sure. It's going to be an Otawara to bounce the Barrowgoyf. I'm very surprised by these drains not attacking last turn. It does suggest something else going on. They're going pretty low here. Sink into Stupor. How many cards do they have in hand? 2 cards in hand. So they could Force of Will here. If this resolves, we win the game, so I'm willing to go for it here. Alright, and we get the match. Oof. That was a good game. We had so many different lines available to us. Yeah, pretty happy with how that deck performed there. We had so many different random disparate pieces that actually taxed our opponent on very different avenues. So, you know, the Kaito and the Barrowgoyf are very different to trying to do the Paint the Grindstone stuff or the One Ring things. So, yeah. Alright, we're on the board. Let's go to round number 3. We're into round 3. Our opponent says, "Hi, YouTube." This is our opener. It's fine. We could probably Surveil land into Urza Saga Gaming with some Force of Will to take off any pressure. I will keep this one. Our engine card is going to be the Saga. We can go and get the Yorion if we need to have 2 Force of Wills. Stalactite Stalker. Okay, I don't think we're going to interact with that one just yet. It obviously can get larger and be a problem later on, but it's not enormous. We should be able to get through that later on. Our opponent's going to have way scarier things for us to be concerned with. Rushing River, actually kind of interesting here. I'll leave it on top. It's a blue card for Force of Will. It means we don't have to give up the Kaito, but also can just bounce this creature that's going to take a lot of effort to grow, and that's kind of neat. It's an outlet to sacrifice our Eumidian Hatchery. Not that we've found the Eumidian Hatchery yet. I'm not in love with this, though. Let's get rid of the Voidwalker. So we're going to take a little bash for 2 here. And we can start working on our Urza Saga plan. So if we'd have kept the Metallic Rebuke, we could have actually Metallic Rebuke this turn. But I think just having the other Force of Will is probably going to serve us better. I will play out this Mox Opal so it doesn't get hit by any sort of hand disruption, and means that our Urza Saga, when it eventually starts making guys, will be making guys that are big enough to beat an Orcish Bowmaster ping. Right, this is not a fetch hand. That's good news for us. Another one of these guys. Okay, I think we're going to let this one happen. What we're going to do is we're aiming to Rushing River and bounce both of these. We're going to bounce the Voidwalker and the Stalactite Stalker in a couple of turns. Because this is going to mean that we can block the Nethergoyf quite effectively. So we're only going to get 1 construct here, but then we're going to bounce both of these and we're going to check the Nethergoyf in combat. So we're going to take a bit of a hit now, but in the sort of mid to long term, it should go quite well for us. Another land. Our opponent's flooding out a little bit. I'm not sure their deck... Oh, no. Don't do that to me. I don't think we can allow this Thoughtseize to hit us. I think this is going to be... I'm getting rid of the stock up here. I think it is the stock up, so I like the Kaito a lot. Alright. That feels horrible. We just need to maintain this Rushing River. If they've got another Thoughtseize, then we are absolutely toast. That does put a Force of Will in the Exile Zone for the Dazzling Voidwalker, but why would they not just get the damage through. I'd be surprised if they left us back. But if we've got something on our hand that we really want to resolve, maybe it's worth keeping the Dazzling Voidwalker back, because we obviously have something really good. So this is now big enough that we can't really block it. So I guess we're just going to take a massive hit here. And then hopefully stabilize this turn. Perilous Research is also cool. If this finds us a land, we can Perilous Research this away and then Rushing River. But then I think we should just Rushing River here. If we bounce this, because that one obviously grows, we can bounce this, sacrifice this. So let's bounce these two guys. We might be going for like a block with our construct where we then sacrifice it to Perilous Research. But that's not going to happen for a couple of turns. Alright, they're going to just get rid of our poor little defenseless construct. That's also going to turn off our Mox Opal. The Aether Saga being the exile zone is actually pretty handy for us there. What is the play here? It's probably the Spellbomb. And we use this now. We have Metalcraft, so we can bounce this and not take any damage this turn. We are under some pressure. We're pretty close to stabilizing. Descended is when a permanent card goes into their graveyard. I don't think we can expose ourselves to Orcish Bowmasters here. I think we have to bounce this. It means they're going to replay it, which is less than ideal for us. It's back again, and presumably we're going to see the Dazzling Voidwalker as well. We are in a tricky spot. Our Mox Opal is off. I don't think we can win this one. But we get to improve things a fair amount, I would say, in the sideboard, because we get some more removal spells, which is what our deck really needs in this matchup. Force of Negation's out. Fatal Push is in. We also would like to have a bit of Triumph and Toxic Deluge coming in. How do I feel about Tezzeret Cruel Captain? What does it find us? Pithing Needle, presumably Wastelands are going to be in our opponent's deck. Nihil Spellbomb, is that going to be very useful against our opponent's deck? It can shrink some constructs whilst cantripping, it's fine. Do I like the Thought Seizers that much here? Not really. Let's get rid of the Thought Seizers for these removal spells. What about Shadow Spear? I think we would like a Shadow Spear. I'm really not convinced that we're ever going to be casting this Hogaak. But if we do, it's very good. I think the Hogaak has to go, just realistically speaking. I think this is enough. I think pre-board, a deck that's just making guy after guy after guy is going to be difficult for us. Unless we can just combo them out. Whereas post-board, we get a grip full of more interaction. I'll keep this. We get to play on basics to begin with. We also get to play what is likely to be the defining card of the format for the next few months in Tamiyo. It's like this and the One Ring, I think, are very much going to be the two axes around which Legacy is fought at the moment. Here is Tamiyo. I don't really want to pitch my stock up to Force of Will. If we had more removal, I'd just take all the Force of Wills out, to be honest. We're going to see a Stalker, because they've got the Descend going. Or they feel the need to Thought Seize us. Fatal Push. Would I like to keep this around? I think so. And the card is just too strong. And you're almost always rewarded for doing bits and pieces with it. Eumidian Hatchery. Do I want to get that ticking up? I think so. So we're just going to be in the Clue Fiesta now. Now they have to fear Brainstorm. So our opponent has a decision of, do they actually have an answer for this Tamiyo, or do they have to just commit to the board so they can attack it if we do flip it? Which tends to work out better most of the time. But obviously we don't have the Brainstorm. Our opponent doesn't know that. There is a Wasteland. There is a Stalactite Stalker. Presumably we're going to have our Eumidian Hatchery Wastelanded. We are. So we're going to get one guy out of this. And I'll draw from this clue. Ancient Tomb, not the most exciting. This Stalactite Stalker is going to grow. Tezzeret Cruel Captain. Is there any point playing this right now? I don't think there is. We can't really untap anything. Tutoring isn't great here. I think I'm going to play this Swamp out and just have non-wastelandable lands. Attack with both creatures. Getting a clue is more important than blocking this little damage. Orcish Bowmasters is a card we have to be aware of. But if our opponent is just holding up 2 black mana, we just don't have to crack the clue. We can just kind of move on with our life. So if they're not adding pressure to the board, then that's okay with me. Now they're getting a little bit of pressure because they're growing their guy each turn. I just don't think we're likely to lose to just this Stalker. We can go and get a Shadow Spear if we wish. So this is clearly a Bowmasters over there. There's a lot of options here. I think that many of them begin with brainstorming though. Let's attack with both of our creatures first to get our clue. Our opponent might go for the Bowmaster ping on the insect. Decided against it. I would like to brainstorm. We don't have an answer for the Bowmaster though. We could play out a land and then crack the clue token and give our opponent a target for this Bowmasters. And then we get the brainstorm over the top. That is reasonable. Right, we're going to try that one out. Let's draw a card. Are you going to Bowmasters? Yep, and then over the top we brainstorm. You're not able to help us out in this particular situation, are you? We have our own Bowmasters. We don't have the mana to deploy it though. We're not doing Tezzeret stuff right now. This can enable our force next turn. We could just get the Spellbomb out, which is okay here, but not exceptional. I wish we hadn't have attacked with the insect token. I was trying to bait out the Bowmaster ping, but our opponent didn't fall for it. Put this on top, because we'll draw that next turn. And what are we not playing next turn? We could just abandon the Force of Will for now. We're going to get the Force of Will next turn anyway, because we still got this clue going. And then we're going to lose this tower. Oh, this is just a horrible play, wasn't it? What am I doing? I think we needed to get the Brainstorm off because our hand didn't really do anything. But maybe we just keep the clues stacking up and then eventually we get to leverage them. Maybe that's just better. Yeah, I think that is just a better play. Alright, I deserve to lose this round. Really hoping to find... Oh no, and I thought so. So really hoping to find some sort of fatal push in the top of our deck. That's why we left the black open so we could deal with the Bowmasters. But if we're just not going to find any removal, we're going to struggle in this matchup anyway. But that whole Tamiyo sequence wasn't great. So next turn we can put the Yorion in hand or play the Painter, and either way that gives us blue. In terms of cards we can pitch to Force of Will. Okay, Pluto Delta. Probably getting a swamp, could be a Surveil land. Just a swamp. Caustic Bronco. That's a name I haven't heard in a long time. It's kind of like Dark Confident, but not quite. So we're going to take a big pounding here. This descends and gets bigger. We can play the Painter. If we play the Painter here, it turns on our Force of Will. But is that even good? We can Bowmaster their guy down, and then we won't have black mana for any sort of removal anyway. Pinging this guy down makes a lot of sense, though. That's something we have to do this turn. Are we getting this Painter down? This is the cheapest way we have drawing a card, except we only have one black mana. We could put Yorion into hand as a blue card, and then play the Bowmaster. That puts us to 5. That seems a bit too dicey, though. Do we get to use this Ancient Tomb? If they attack with this Caustic Bronco and it's saddled, we could take a bunch as well. We have blockers. We have 3 blockers. They will attack with 3 creatures, but one of them has Menace, so we have to put 2 guys in front of it. So we will be taking damage next turn. Do we just put the Yorion into hand as a blue card? Or do we hold up this? We could always just put the Painter in, and that gives us a shot at trying to win the game next turn, and another blocker. I think that's what I'm going for. I don't know if our opponent's running Snuff Out. It's possible, so I'm going to name black. I don't think we're winning this one. I don't think our last turn particularly helped, but we are just pressured a bit too much by what's here. We couldn't find any of our removal spells. And this Stereotype Stalker just doing some great work. I do want to put this mono black sort of aggro mid-rangey deck on the channel at some point. It's very much in my wheelhouse. I played it for Eternal Legacy Masters one year. A Dalthy Voidwalker. I could Force of Will this, but I don't think we get to do that. I think we have to Bowmasters this and just deal with this turn. This is going to saddle the Bronco. We might just be dead to this Bronco attack. So Bowmasters. Hate that for us. Alright, here is our Bowmasters. And we have to... Do we have to take this one out, or do we take something else out? 2 creatures got to go under the bus here. Alright, let's take out their Bowmasters. Just feel massively outclassed here. So we have to block this or we die. We block one of these and we live at 1 life. They have a Bowmasters in hand, but we're going to be dead to the Voidwalker anyway. So we may as well go to 1 life. How are we going to... Now if we go to 1 life we can't draw the Grindstone for the win, can we? Because we need to use our Ancient Tomb for this. Okay, this is our blocks. We are one card away from just winning this game. Actually, that's not even true. They just Bowmaster us in the upkeep if we tap the Ancient Tomb, right? They have the Wastelands. They have the Bowmasters. This is going to finish off our Painter's Servant here. So what is our route out of this game? We can't play this. So getting an Ensnaring Bridge is not going to help us out here. Eumidian Hatchery. Not great. Let's tap this for 1 and then tap this for 2 and show ourselves a door. Yeah, we did not play that round particularly well. We didn't play that game particularly well. I don't think it matters. We got absolutely smushed. But if we just have this Tamiyo, maybe we can block with it a little bit. But the clues are going to be hard to leverage because of the Bowmasters. Yeah. Maybe I was wrong to go for the Brainstorm looking for a Fatal Push for the Bowmasters and then we can stick our Tamiyo. But maybe we just had to take a line that was that aggressive and that upside because of how bad it looks for us this matchup. Alright, on to round 4. I don't particularly like this hand. There's just some disparate pieces. Let's mulligan this. Okay, we have a bunch of good cards here. I think I'm going to bin off this Lotus Petal, just have mana and action, or things that find action at the very least. Wastes. Okay, we're probably looking at Eldrazi over here. So getting a basic land here might be pretty handy. Although we already have an Underground Sea here. I think we actually just get the Underground Sea, because if they wasteland us, they can wasteland us off colours more easily. If they're doing nothing with 1 mana, and they wasteland us next turn, it means they're not doing anything next turn either. They do have the wasteland. I don't particularly want to play against Reality Smasher. Wastegate Battle Mage does kill our One Ring. Or our... There's a Saga. But next turn they have 1, 2, 3, 4 mana. So they're pretty close to just smashing us. I think we have to take the Smasher, which is not ideal. We'd like to draw a 2-drop that we can do something with next turn. So we can go 2-drop into Saga plus stock up. Or 2-drop on next turn. Okay, they drew a Temple. So they didn't want to wasteland us. Oh, that's pretty good, isn't it? Let's just stock up right now, see if we can find the tools we require to beat what our opponent's putting down. Well, this Hogaak is certainly not castable. Brainstorm is obviously a very useful card. I don't think this is about Lavaspur Boots. Lotus Petal can help us get through the amount of like wasteland type action our opponent can bring. I think it's going to be Brainstorm. And then I'm sort of torn between the Petal or the Research. I think it should just be the Petal to make sure that we don't get completely run out of mana by our opponent having wastelands. But we can play the One Ring next turn, which they can answer with Wastegate Battle Mage. So maybe we try and bait it out with our Urza Saga. I guess we could have played out the Lotus Petal and see if our opponent bites on that. Here is the Wasteland. There goes the Ancient Tomb. Are they going to deploy anything this turn? No. So they're an Eldrazi deck that's not actually aggroing us out. I guess we start with a Brainstorm. Just give us the most information possible. Of course, we immediately draw the Tamiyo. Why wouldn't we? Do you want to fetch away these 2? If we fetch away one of them, then we can still make the One Ring next turn. Okay, so our plan here is to play this Aether Spellbomb and see if our opponent is willing to waste their Wastegate Battle Mage on it. If we play the Tamiyo out, they can Kozilek's Command it for value. But if we have the Spellbomb down, this can stop like a line breaker in its tracks. And if it gets the Wastegate Battle Mage out of our opponent's hand, then we just drown the One Ring next turn. And I think we are quite far ahead at that point. We're taking a little bit of damage from our own lands, Thoughtseize and stuff. Another Wasteland. Okay. Now they don't have the mana, the green mana for this yet, but they can obviously draw it at any point, and we kind of have to play around that. Or we could just sand the One Ring and hope they don't have it this turn. Kappa Cannoneer. We can play that next turn, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't really want to tap my One Ring to make a Kappa Cannoneer, though. I'd rather tap this to draw a million cards. I think we're going to see a Kozilek's Command at end of turn. Yep. They are now behind. This is kind of what I feared, because if they go and find the green source and just exile our One Ring, it's really bothersome. Yep, here it is. I don't know if they were sandbagging that or not. I think the Eldrazi deck is very good, by the way. I've been preaching about how it's been one of the best decks in the format secretly for a while. And if everyone's playing One Ring stuff, this is one of the better decks to punish the One Ring. So this is going to cost 2 mana. I'd like to get this Tamiyo down as well. If we want this Emry, it's going to cost us some life here. I think it's good enough that we want this. So we're going to pop our graveyard out and see what we hit. Ensnaring Bridge. I could draw a card off of this if I want to. Sure. I think I'm going to draw a card of this. We can always access it again. Alright, Baleful Strix is a great draw. So next turn we have Baleful Strix and Ensnaring Bridge. And then we have to make sure we don't get Glaring Flesh Raken out is the main thing that's going to kill us from this point. They do have an Eye of Ugin, so they can eventually tutor for Flesh Rakers and kill us. But they don't have enough mana to be thinking about that just yet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana, so they need 2 more mana still. Because this taps for 2, but not 2 for the Eye of Ugin purposes. Obligator. Okay, so they're going to steal our poor defenseless Tamiyo. That's going to give them a clue, which is pretty good. I assume they're going to go for it here, because this also blocks better than our Emry. Why do they still have this colourless mana floating? I think they miscalculated based on their Eye of Ugin here. So we're going to take 5. They're going to get a clue. Not blocking here. I could trade with the Eldrazi Obligator, but I think getting our Ensnaring Bridge back is going to be pretty important here. Mox Opal is obviously an excellent draw. So now we get this in. We can attack with our Tamiyo to turn on our Mox. And then we may as well play out this little guy. Okay, we might have stabilised. We're only on 3 life. If they Obligator our Baleful Strix this turn, we're in trouble. Cavern of Souls. We've still got this Syrian Spirit Guide hanging around. They're just going to come in and trade the Battle Mage. They're not. Okay. Pithing Needle. And our Urza Saga ticking up. I don't really want to use the Ancient Tomb again. I'd like to get some cards out of my hand. I think we're going to name... I think it's Eye of Ugin, actually. That's kind of the end game that gets out from underneath this lock that we've assembled. So we have 2 mana that makes this. We can get a clue as well. I'll just get this petal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can make this Kappa Cannoneer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we'd have to fetch a land. We could always tap the Baleful Strix, I suppose. So this is the blocker that's going to be very hard for them to interact with. Unlike the Baleful Strix. This is not what we wanted to see. We don't really have good removal spells in our deck, unfortunately. We need to go to the sideboard for those. Okay, this is going to put us to 1. Very glad we didn't use this fetch land. Do you have another colourless spell? Seems relatively likely. Oh, no, they don't. Okay. Let's get a construct. It pumps our guy. Draw a turn. I don't know if we want another construct here. We could brainstorm right now. It will flip our Tamiyo, which isn't necessarily going to help. We get the shuffle, so we can just choose one of the cards. I'm going to brainstorm first. Azuran Orb. We can put that back and find it later if we want it. Off of the Urza Saga. We could put back this Seat of the Synod, and then we can just hold up this Force of Negation. That answers Kozilek's command for us. Right, so flipping the Tamiyo. And then... Actually, do we have... No, because we're going to get the Lotus Petal back, right, aren't we? So we'll float the mana here. We'll go and get this Azuran Orb. Tap this, get back our Lotus Petal. Play the Lotus Petal. Our guy grows. We activate the Tamiyo. I'm going to put away this Syrian Spirit Guide for now. I can attack with my Baleful Strix. I don't think that's how we'll win in this game. We've got 2 lands that we can happily sacrifice to the Azuran Orb. Cavern of Souls, 2 cards in hand for our opponent. Right, I'm going to sacrifice this Ancient Tomb now. And I'm going to sacrifice this Polluted Delta as well. In the end step, I guess we crack one of these clues. Although that goes shields down on our Force of Negation for Kozilek's command, so we can't do that. Painter's Servant is an interesting one, isn't it? Let's go and... If we... No, so the way we do this to play around what they can have is we go... Sacrifice the Lotus Petal. Bring back the Lotus Petal. And then we play the painter out. And then we name blue. This will also mean that their Eldrazi's get harder to cast. And I think we just plus the Tamiyo here. The aim of the game is to maybe ultimate the Tamiyo and go and find the Grindstone. I don't believe they're going to have like a big Eldrazi in their deck. We are also way behind on clock here because we've got a lot of operations and our opponent's just smashing guys at our face. This deck we're playing is pretty taxing because there's so many different things in it. We're doing something big. A Reality Smasher. It is blue. So the Fleshraker won't trigger because we have the Painted Servant anymore. I still don't think we give up our ability to hit a Kozilek's Command. Although they can't really cast it at that point. Maybe we're just supposed to play that out. I'll play this Seat. It grows our little friend. Gives us more food for our Zero Orb if we want it. And I don't think we need to get anything back here. We just hold up as much mana as we can. Because next turn we Tamiyo and we Grindstone them out. Alright, we managed to win the game. That was really tight. I thought we were absolutely done for that entire game and then we won. So that was cool. I would like some Fatal Pushes, bit of Triumph, Toxic Deluge, all the removal stuff that I think should probably be... Some amount of this should be in the main. We're very light on removal. Consigned to Memory, obviously a banger against the colourless creature deck. This is a matchup where Shadow Spear is going to be pretty good. Destructive Fruit for Wasteland isn't the worst. What is the worst? I'm not super in love with Thoughtseizers. Punching ourselves doesn't seem the best. I don't think Hogaak is castable in our deck, so I'm going to get rid of that. Barrowgoyf is amazing, so let's try and draw those. Spellbomb is good, Zero Orb is fine. Rushing River, bouncing their guys feels terrible. That can get out of here. Force of Negation does hit Kozilek's Command. I don't think we want that many forces. I think we're a Yorion deck, so we probably need to keep some, and that's probably just going to be the regular forces, because they can sometimes be pointed at creatures early on. Kaito locks their stuff down. Baleful Strix trades with anything. Perilous Research. We've kind of struggled to leverage this Perilous Research. Ensnaring Bridge is certainly not coming out. What about these Tezzerets? They seem very slow. They are tutors for Grindstone. Let's at least trim one. We still need 2 more cuts though. This is a creature that can come down early and be bigger than their guy, so I like that. We need to keep our engine cards. Do we have room for these Disruptor Flutes? I guess maybe not. That seems okay. The Disruptor Flute is mainly just there to stop Ivugin or the Wastelands from jamming us up. Very good card. Reasonable card. Not amazing in this matchup, but gives us blockers and buys us time. Urza Saga actively brilliant here. Okay, we'll keep this. So we might start off on Surveil Land and then go into Urza Saga plus Bowmasters. We could just speedrun to Painter combo. We're not going to speedrun to Painter combo anymore because they just played a Null Rod. Understood. It certainly makes a decision for us. And we drew our other One Ring. Cool. Now, Urza Saga pretty good against Null Rod as a general rule. We just make some big guys and we don't care that they don't have activated abilities because they're just going to stomp around. Ooh, a second Ancient Tomb. This feels like they're holding up for a Kozilek's Command. Understudy Sewers. Let's have a little look. Consigned to Memory. Yes, that is an absolute banger. Let's play out this Urza Saga. We've got Consign up, we've got Bowmasters up, and then we can hold up Consign next turn whilst doing Saga things if we don't need to use it. How are we getting rid of this Null Rod? We're not, right? Maybe... No, we don't have a way of turning it into a creature. A Wastes-Scape Battle Mage. I'm going to respond to this. I would like to replicate it once. Put the replicate onto the ability, so we're going to counter the ability. We don't get to counter this guy, but that's fine. I think countering the land destruction spell is worth it. I'll play out this Underground Sea. How many things... So this is a 2-3. It's going to get bigger. I don't really want it to be dismemberable. So if this goes in the graveyard, it's going to be slightly bigger. I think we're just going to make some constructs. Unclaimed Territory. So no big hasty boy. That's good news for us. I'm just going to take the 2. Crank out some friends. If we don't draw land, there's a temptation to play the Barrowgoyf instead. Is this just a K command? It is indeed. How many cards are they going to leave on top, I wonder? We get to see what we draw before we decide what we're doing with the Ezra Saga. Right, we have a land, so I'm not super into Barrowgoyf just yet. Okay, they only put one card on top. I think just making big guys is not a bad way to go. Which of these actually works? It's probably just a Pithing Needle, isn't it? Yes, okay, let's get Pithing Needle. I think we're going to put this one on Wasteland. Which means we're going to be pretty reliable at casting our Barrowgoyf. This doesn't tap for mana, but it is still an artifact for the purposes of making our guys large. Am I attacking here? Am I blocking? They're only at 12. I think we could turn this race. They're just going to chump with a spawn? They are. These double Ancient Tombs are something that we're hoping to prey upon. And they're also getting to the point where casting Dismember is not going to kill our Barrowgoyf, and it's also not going to... Well, it can kill the Barrowgoyf right now, but soon it's not going to be able to kill the Barrowgoyf. And it's also going to cost them too much life. Now, Glowing Fleshraker is a pretty busted card. So is Eldrazi Linebreaker, as it turns out. So we can trade a construct for the Linebreaker, which we probably have to do. And we just find a land and cast a Barrowgoyf will be alright. They're putting it on this little rubbish spawn token. Alright, I guess I don't really want to trade this for a spawn. That's a very smart move. Land for the Barrowgoyf? Not a land for the Barrowgoyf. I will deploy a Zuran Orb. We have 5/5s now. I will attack with... If we attack with both, they have to block one of them. I think we attack with just one and just whittle away the spawns. We can try and ping away if they do the spawn play. They're running out of the ability to cast spells, though. The more they tap these Ancient Tombs, the easier we can sneak in a win here. Thought Not Seer. That is really irritating. Okay, this will come in and there's going to be a trigger. Bowmasters. We don't get to Bowmasters one of their little guys this time. But we end up with more blockers. So it kind of comes out in the wash and we put our opponents to quite a low life total. They're going to take our Barrowgoyf. Maybe we should have just got the Barrowgoyf in earlier, but they did have a Kozilek's Command that could have burned it at some point. Maybe the second construct would have been better as a Barrowgoyf. Alright, what is getting pumped here? Itself, because it has Trample. 11. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we have to block with a bunch of things here, or we die. So we block with... Oh, this is a smart attack with both, isn't it? So if we block with this, that soaks up 5 damage. This soaks up 2 damage by putting it here. So we're currently taking 6. So we have to put this here and we go to 1, right? And they have a Dismember. That'll do. So that's the Dismember that we were playing around the whole time they had. And we're trying to get our creature in around it. So kind of rewarded in terms of seeing the thing that we were playing around. But it did smash us up good. Okay, I think our deck probably wants more Ensnaring Bridge. When I've played full-on Tezzeret decks in the past, I've really relied on Ensnaring Bridge a bit. So let's see if we can draw it this game. So I think it dramatically changes how the game works. We've got a removal spell. We have no blue mana. Am I okay with just turn 2, One Ring? It's the most powerful thing our deck does. I think that means we're going to give it a go. We don't have to tap the Ancient Tomb until we're playing the One Ring either. Alright, opponent, your turn. We're getting wasted. We're not getting wasted. So we get to make a turn 2 One Ring, which is pretty high power level. We also draw on a Barrowgoyf. That's pretty tasty as well. Just get some protection. Another One Ring. Not the worst, but also not really what we're looking for. We want black mana, please. Not that our Barrowgoyf is going to be very large for now. Flesh Raker. So we need to get Revolt this turn. We could play a Tamiyo and flip it, but our life total is just disappearing second by second. Do I think playing a Tamiyo... Like, we could die next turn. And that means we don't... If we draw a black source, maybe we can kill this. I think we're just going to draw from the ring this turn. Zuran Orb. This is not really panning out like I wanted. I'm going to play this tapped. I don't think we can afford to play this untapped. 3 life is so much. Okay, our opponent's going to have a pretty good Flesh Raker turn, I would imagine. We don't want to see something like an Eye of Ugin, because then they just... Oh, there it is. So this is probably going to tap for someone in the region of 6 mana this turn. Okay, just a Smasher. I say just a smasher. Do they have any follow-up? No. Okay, so we're just taking 7. We are very nearly dead. How do we not die? It's an interesting question. Zurnor probably is going to be essential for us getting out of this one. Do we... So we can play a Barrowgoyf, but it's not going to be very big. Do we just draw some cards first and go from there? I think so. Painter's Servant. I'll play this one out. This can get us Descend. So we can put 3 types in the graveyard. Oh, sorry, Revolt, not Descend. So we can get a Swamp here. And then we Fatal Push on this Fleshraker. And then we cast this guy. This is a... What's this on the backside? An instant. So we've already got an instant there, so that's not going to help. We're going to put an artifact into the graveyard. So this is going to be 4. So we're not technically dead. Can we put another card into our graveyard? Big Daddy Barrowgoyf is here. I think we just need to play the Tamiyo. Obviously, we have the One Ring, which is a problem we're going to have to deal with in a bit. I think the Tamiyo is going to be more used than a Brainstorm here. So let's get the Tamiyo in. We're going to have to be sacrificing some amount of our lands here. We sacrifice 2 lands to not die to our own One Ring. Why would you do that to me, opponent? Okay, so we're going to have to sacrifice this Ancient Tomb. We're going to sacrifice this Ancient Tomb. It's going to put us to 5. I think that's enough for now. They're going to name the Zuranorb. Not something I expected to see today. Somebody... Oh, they named the One Ring. Okay, that's fine. Oh, Line Breaker. Get out of here. A 5/3 guy. Alright, it's blocking time. So we can kill this or this. Which of them is actually scary for us? This makes all of their guys have haste. That is very scary. There's no way we can get an additional... This is an instant, not a sorcery on the backside. Have to block here and here. So we lose 2 but gain 4. So we go to 7. This hits us for 3. If we don't sack the lands, maybe they do name the Zuranorb there. So Hatchery. That makes some guys, but that's not what we need right now. We need to be able to cast this other copy of the One Ring. And it's kind of not possible. Alright, Brainstorm. If in doubt, Brainstorm. How does this work? It doesn't, right? We can play a Baleful Strix. Then we have to sacrifice all of our lands and we're just in the hole then. The Baleful Strix kills this. We take 4. So that's our entire life total. So we sacrifice 2 lands to cover from that and then we just die. Yeah, we're just dead. Our main deck not really having removal is very difficult, but we managed to win game 1 purely off the back of Ensnaring Bridge, which I feel is something we should be leaning more heavily into. So we are 4 rounds in and we are 1-3. Not ideal, but we might be able to get a little bit of pity play points back if we can get a 2-3 here. Tamiyo with Brainstorm in hand. Sure. Am I going to play this out or are we saving this for anything else? I don't think we are. And we could use it to put a counter on the Tezzeret. We can pop this in our opponent's turn so that we get an additional draw on our turn, so it makes it possible that we can flip the Tamiyo in a different way. Let's see what our opponent's working with over here. Brainstorm on top of their library. Sure. This Bauble gives us a first draw. Then we draw for turn. And we can attack here. And uncounterably flip this Tamiyo with this clue. Our opponent could respond to this if they've got like Dismember or something. What are they going to do for 1 blue? I think I'm okay just to uncounterably flip our Tamiyo. Okay, what are you going to do with your island? They're going to Brainstorm, and they have a Brainstorm on top of their library as well. So we've put our opponent under an immense amount of pressure with this Tamiyo. Maybe next turn we can draw a land and just drop the Barrowgoyf and have just another premier threat that our opponent has to try and deal with. If they do kill our Tamiyo somehow, we do just have Tamiyo Brainstorm ready to go again. Alright, another Brainstorm. No shuffle effects, they're only seeing a little bit more. Okay, so they do have a fetch land for this Brainstorm at least. So not locked. But no prismatic ending on our Tamiyo. Probably not what they wanted to see. We didn't draw a land here. I think I'm going to Brainstorm before activating my Tamiyo in case I want to get the Brainstorm back. It's unlikely, but you never know. Okay, so we can just jam down a Barrowgoyf if we want. That seems pretty reasonable, doesn't it? So our deck is, well, our hand this time at least, is just nothing but haymakers. You know, we've got the turn 2 Tamiyo, we've got turn 3 Barrowgoyf, we got turn 4 the One Ring. Just Battlecruiser magic. Alright, another blue source. Are we playing against High Tide? I don't know why, I've just got some High Tide vibes out of nowhere. That is something that wouldn't care about what we're doing here. Okay, Ancient Tomb, it's not High Tide, it's probably, I don't know, Show and Tell, Omni-Tell? Show and Tell, you say. I could get the One Ring in. Start ticking it up. It's an Omniscience. Okay. So our opponent is ignoring all of our big haymaker pressure by just having something better to do. I don't think we beat this Emrakul, so GG's opponent. So the Show and Tell decks over the last 19 weeks have been doing terribly. Their overrep rate is really low, so they've been doing a lot worse than you would expect based on their meta share. That is largely in part due to Blue Rat Reanimator, so that deck going probably helps this deck out a fair bit. We saw Ancient Tomb, Island, Omni-Tell. Oh, sorry, Omniscience. Do we think our opponent is playing Omni-Tell, or do we think they're playing Sneak and Show? Because Sneak and Show makes us want these cards in, but Omni-Tell doesn't. We obviously want these Disruptor Flutes, we'll take those. I don't think we want any of this stuff. Consign to Memory, we can maybe hit a trigger, that doesn't seem great. Pithing Needle, not really doing that much here. Neither is the Nihil Spellbomb. I don't really care for the Vizuranor, but it can help us get pressure maybe, and that's okay because it can turn the Eumidian Hatchery into a guy machine. How many more counter spells that really work for this matchup? I think we're just going to have the Disruptor Flutes, and that's probably all we have. The Ensnaring Bridge can be quite interesting against the Emrakul, but if they have Omniscience, they're just going to play everything. I'm going to assume they're playing Omni-Tell, because we saw double Island, which is unusual in a Sneak and Show deck. How does this hand interact with our opponent? It doesn't. I think we have to mulligan. Okay, this hand does interact. It provides a little clock that can do some stuff. We can bounce a spell off a stack. We can counter spell something. Making clues makes the rebuke cheaper as well. I like this little synergy here. There's lots of neat tiny bits of synergy in this deck, even though it kind of just looks like a big pile of cards. What are we putting back here? It might be the Baleful Strix. I think it's the Baleful Strix, and our win condition is going to be the Tamiyo. I don't think we have to worry about our mana base very much. We can just get non-basics. Although if they are suddenly a surprise Sneak and Show deck, then we probably would like to have access to an island here. Alright, let's get in with the Tamiyo. Would like to find some Thoughtseize action. But next turn is going to be, we get a clue, we brainstorm. Things get better for us from that point. Our opponent's unlikely to interact with us. They're just going to save all their counters to defend their spell. Let's attack in with our Tamiyo, get ourselves a clue. Right, winning before we can leverage the cards from Tamiyo is a pretty valid approach to dealing with the Tamiyo problem in Legacy. I say the Tamiyo problem. It's not really a problem yet. We don't know if it's going to be the be-all and end-all of things. I don't think we need another Tamiyo. Although we could just play another Tamiyo right now and start accruing some clues. Maybe we put this back and maybe we just put both lands back. Plus on this. This one is going to get us an Underground Sea, so we at least have access to black mana. We're going to play ourselves a Tamiyo. And this will give us 1 mana Metallic Rebuke next turn. We need our opponent to not go Ancient Tomb, Show and Tell this turn. We don't beat that. But if they're playing Omni-Tell like I think they are, then they only have 4 Show and Tell, so quite often they have to dig for them. Alright, we're unlikely to get comboed out this turn. It's still possible using things like Lotus Petal. Scalding Tarn. This Brainstorm obviously isn't great if we're trying to maintain this Tamiyo. I could Brainstorm here. We would lose this Tamiyo. I don't think that's worth it. I think we're just going to crack clues and hold up Metallic Rebuke. Alright, the Cycling Alarm Revealed at end step. This definitely feels like Omni-Tell. A third island, yeah, it has to be Omni-Tell. It might even be full-on mono-blue Omni-Tell. They might just have Scalding Tarn for Brainstorm and Surveil land purposes. And they might have a Mystic Sanctuary in there, so they can get back their Show and Tell in the late game. There is that third island we knew about. Defense Grid. Very much a use it or lose it situation, isn't it? We can get back the Metallic Rebuke with Tamiyo, if we want to. Polluted Delta. Okay, I think it's Tamiyo minus get back the Metallic Rebuke. So we could have upped this and then tried to effectively win the game the following turn. I just don't think that's a realistic goal. I think we need to protect ourselves. Our opponent's obviously trying to get through our permission. We can Metallic Rebuke this turn, and then we can minus the Tamiyo to Metallic Rebuke again, and then Brainstorm, turn this into Tamiyo that's ticking up. So we can kind of just keep this one counterspell going round and round. But it is a conditional counterspell, so they will eventually have enough mana to pay for it. Show and tell. I'm going to Metallic Rebuke this. Pact of Negation. That is a pretty big game here. I think what we do is crack this for a Surveil land, and then we're going to Brainstorm. The One Ring, that's not the one. Okay, this doesn't really get us where we need to go either. Sure, our Tamiyo flips. We'll keep the one with 3 loyalty. Pact of Negation resolves. The Show and Tell resolves. Maybe this messes with our opponent slightly. So they are going to die to this Pact of Negation next turn. So if they play an Emrakul, that doesn't win them the game. But they probably have some infinite combo loop using a Cunning Wish. Stock up. I guess with shields down, so we just pass a turn. I don't know if making the things red is going to make any difference here. I suspect not. But it's the only way we could impact the game this turn. Enter the Infinite. Draw cards equal to the number of cards in your library, then put a card from your hand on top of your library. You have no maximum hand size until your next turn. Okay, that's the best Brainstorm I've ever seen. Draw 48 and put one back. So presumably they can kill us here. It's going to be Cunning Wish or something, I would imagine. Here is a Cunning Wish. Is this Release the Ants? Because now the top card of the library is probably an Emrakul, so they can cast Release the Ants here. And then we clash. They win the clash because they have a 15 mana spell. So the Release the Ants goes back to their hand. And then they can cast it again. And because it's free to cast because Omniscience, they can just burn through this again and again. They revealed Enter the Infinite. Okay. Do we have a 15 drop in our deck? So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we need a 13 drop. We do not have that. So this is an infinite combo. And we are dead. Okay, so we finished with a 1-4 record, which is obviously not great. One of the rounds I did not play particularly well, but we got absolutely crushed in that round. Let's have a look at the deck. So this deck has a bunch of good cards in it, right? You know, we've got Barrowgoyf, we've got Kaito, we've got the One Ring, we've got Tamiyo Brainstorm, we've got Force of Wills to back it up, and some Thoughtseize, we've got Painter combo, Bowmasters, so many cool things in this deck. However, it's so unfocused. We don't have any sort of reliable game plan in our deck because we've got so many disparate parts. You know, we draw Painter, but we might not have the Grindstone, or vice versa. You know, Kappa Cannoneer requires us to have a bunch of artifacts to set it up, and sometimes we didn't have enough artifacts to set it up. I found myself wanting certain parts of the deck a lot more, like wanting to draw into Barrowgoyfs and One Rings a lot, and we just didn't have enough of these to draw them reliably. Not only do we only have 2 copies of each, but we are a Yorion deck, which means that it's harder to find them because we're playing 80 cards, and obviously the list is 81 cards because it's a bit spicy. Now, there's a bunch of things I like here, but I think you just have to pick a lane, right? If we just played a 60-card deck with one of these sort of, with like 1 or 2 of these game plans in instead of like the multitude of game plans we have, I think we'd be in a better spot. If we want to play Yorion, then we need to have more redundancy. So we need to have more things that do the same thing, which means playing more copies of the good cards. You know, Emry, this is one of our best engine cards. Maybe we need more copies of this in the deck. The One Ring, why are we not running 4 of this? It's one of the best cards in the format. Same with Tamiyo. We're less likely to draw the extra copies of Tamiyo because we're running a Yorion deck. So I think we should just be upping all the best cards. And then that probably means you end up losing the Perilous Research. Like, how useful is having one of each of these Planeswalkers? Like, I enjoy having singletons and stuff in deck, but I'm not really sure what they're doing. I don't think the Hogaak is even castable in this deck, really. We have 2 Orcish Bowmasters and the Eumidian Hatchery as our only ways to play this. I've bought it out a lot. This feels like the 81st card, and you should just cut it straight away. There's just too many disparate things going on here. Like, Tezzeret was really bad. We didn't really want this card. Sure, it can untap the One Ring, but we've only got 2 copies of the One Ring. It just didn't feel like where we were going. We don't have that many copies of our Painter stuff, and we're a Yorion deck, so it's very hard to leverage this. We also don't have anything else that goes with Painter, really, so it's not doing the most work. So I think we could definitely change this deck a lot to get it somewhere that I would be happy as a competitive list. I think you can play like a black-blue Yorion pile, but you probably just have to pick a lane. I don't think you get to do Tamiyo, One Ring, Painter Servant, Hogaak stuff all in the same deck. What would be most interesting for me is playing some sort of Tezzeret deck, because Tezzeret can find you the One Ring, so it kind of alleviates the fact that you've got 80 cards, so this can dig you for the One Ring. It's also just a card that can win you the game quite nicely and gain you life to offset the One Ring, and then go up on things like Ensnaring Bridge, and then maybe that becomes the Painter build. So you have like the Tezzeret, One Ring, Ensnaring Bridge, Painter, and you just lean more into that side of things. And maybe we're not doing things like Barrowgoyf, and maybe that's like a sideboard card. I think the Tamiyo is just a thing we should be playing, and when somebody cracks the best deck that runs both Tamiyo and the One Ring, then they probably crack the format at this point, is my rough thoughts on things. But this was a fun deck to play with lots of really weird cards just coming up in crazy orders and stuff. Like our Emry, we have one Bauble. Like we have other stuff that we're obviously getting back with it, but it's not even the most high stakes Emry. I think we need to lean into the power of the cards, because we have a bunch of powerful cards that we're not leveraging, rather than having fewer powerful cards but leverage them more, which is going to make the deck more successful. Also, not having removal in the main deck is real sketchy. I think we need more ways of protecting ourselves in the main deck if we want to play a deck like this. I love playing Baleful Strix with Tezzeret. Maybe I'll brew some sort of Tezzeret thing to the channel at some point, because this is a card that is very near and dear to my heart. Like I said at the top, this was the card that I brewed around and managed to win a PTQ and get onto the Pro Tour with my own little Tezzeret deck. That deck was really sweet, and I genuinely think it might have been the best deck for a very short space of time until people cracked the Birthing Pod shell, which my deck could never beat. But still, I think this deck is just too many disparate pieces, and it's sometimes fun to play something like this. If you wanted to play a Lutri deck, where you have all singletons in your deck because of the way Lutri works, I'll just pull it up for you. So this one, each non-land card in your starting deck has a different name, and this just gives us a companion with flash that allows us to copy an instant or sorcery. So we could play a Lutri deck, and that would give us a good reason to be having lots of singletons. And we play a 60-card deck instead, and maybe that ends up being a sort of more interesting approach to something like this, because it kind of just feels like whoever created this deck list maybe couldn't decide what they wanted to do and was like, what are we playing today? I don't know, everything. Alright, I think we are done for today. I've had my thoughts on this one. Please like and subscribe, and if you're in a position to support me on Patreon and stuff, just for a couple of dollars a month, it does really help, and I appreciate everyone who does that. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.